Everyone, welcome to this week's Charting from Blank episode. I think it's been a couple weeks since I've done one of these, but going to get into the routine of doing them again weekly. If you don't know what this video is about, essentially I take a completely blank chart and start from fresh, working my way from the higher time frame down, discussing a few levels of interest and also eventually coming through to a plan for that said coin or said ticker. This week we're actually going to be taking a look at Coinbase stock. I saw a lot of talk on Coinbase this morning and the stock itself, news around Brian Armstrong's selling. I thought it was a good time to take a look at the stock and come together with a rough plan and outlook for you guys on something like this and whether I think it's a good buy opportunity coming over the next quarter or so. Okay, let's get into the video. As always, before I start, I just want to remind you that this video is for informational purposes only and reflects my personal views. It's not financial advice, and please always consult a qualified financial advisor before making investment decisions. Yeah, as I mentioned, there's been some news floating around today about Brian Armstrong selling. And obviously when you have a CEO or a main developer or anything in a project selling stock, it can be a bad sign for a lot of people. I think a lot of people get fearful holding something like that, especially when you have, I mean, in our case, the CEO of Coinbase selling stock, right? When a matter of fact, you know, he's been selling since middle of last year until early this year, and it really at the end of the day it comes down to a very small portion of his Coinbase shares, like around less than 10%, around 5% of his total shares. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not a massive worry. And I feel like in these sort of times when you've got a stock that's down 65% off the highs that it put in back in July, it could be scary for some people, and also people like to cling on to the doomer side of things, especially when the market's slow. People like to FUD and make fear posts and fearmonger other people, but I don't think it's something necessarily that you should be massively worried about in terms of like fundamental side of things. Obviously crypto market has been struggling, so the fact that the Coinbase stock is plummeting and it has been going down, it makes complete sense, really. I don't want to talk about fundamentals too much. These sort of Charting from Blank episodes are more about the technical analysis, but I just wanted to give some insight and sort of a reason why I thought it'd be a good time to look at coin. When we have people starting to FUD at the lows, maybe it can be a good opportunity for us sentiment wise to look for a reversal. If we look at the monthly on coin and even the weekly, right, we can see that it is moving into this sort of support area, which has previously held many times. If we go more into the weekly here, we can see we have this sort of support area where we kind of are now, this 146 145.5 level, and that monthly level towards 172. So it has been a good place for coin, right, historically, over the, I don't know how long this is since it broke that area back in February 2024. So essentially 2 years. It's like a 2-year support for coin, and a pretty important level, really. I don't think it's anything to be too fearful of, unless price starts to accept below this sort of 146 area. Break below 146, fairly low volume down here. You can see how we broke through this area quite harsh back in April 22, and equally back through that area towards November 2023. So if we did start to accept below here, below 146, you could probably expect a move back down to 100 on coin, and a breakdown back down to 100, and maybe even towards this sort of high volume node area into 75, this high volume node POC towards 75. But for now, this is a really good support. We bottomed here back in April 2025 and equally back in September 2024, which actually I'm going to take a look at something quickly and then we can pull the chart up. But it's quite interesting, actually. I've just marked up this level compared to Bitcoin, and we can see that, obviously brings me back to what I was saying. Crypto has not been performing well. So realistically, crypto stocks are not going to perform well, especially a stock of one of the leading crypto exchanges. Like, not many people are signing up. There can't be that many new wallets being formed. There can't be that many new traders coming into the space. So it's slightly different to the prior 3 times we retested this area, but we can see the past 3 times that coin retested or broke this area was essentially a bottom for BTC. So I do believe that if we formed a bottom on BTC around this 60k down to 50k area, and coin does manage to hold this 146 region, it's probably a really good a place to be a buyer on coin based on historical levels of interest. We can see into this area, coin did hold that 146 area really well, pretty much because Bitcoin bottomed, right? Or Bitcoin started to break out, so did coin. So that's something to consider here if you are confident in a Bitcoin bottom, and if we do continue to hold above this 50k 55k region on BTC, there's probably a good chance of a bounce up. But you know, you can almost guarantee that if Bitcoin did break down, if it did lose this 55k area, then you could see coin moving down towards sort of 94. And yeah, if coin did move towards a 94 for like a long-term buy, like I do think that's a really nice place to accumulate. Like overall, let's say we did get a breakdown, let's say, you know, the market continues to tumble, things don't look great. I think a long-term accumulation for coin, anything below 100, below that 100, that whole number, that seems like a really good place to be a buyer into here. 100 down to sort of like 75, like I said, if we do lose hair. But for now, like as long as BTC continues to hold above 55k, this realistically could find a bottom down here, and relative to BTC, you could look at starting to pick up some coin spot. Daily overall, like there's not really much else to say in terms of like standard price action. Like we've got this huge level of interest here for coin, and I see no reason why, you know, this is not the main point of interest right now. And like I said, if BTC starts to bottom here, then we would probably see coin bounce back up towards that 250, maybe even 300 region. And if BTC really struggles over the next couple of weeks, there's a good chance coin is going to gap down to 100 and look for some sort of like long-term accumulation into, you know, 100 for coin. If you are willing to buy some stock, some Coinbase stock, then buying under 100 seems like a fantastic opportunity. So moving on, we're going to take a look at my VWAP system, because this often provides some pretty good outlook on how overextended things can be. You know, obviously MicroStrategy equally is been getting blitzed to the downside. Bitmine stock equally is getting blitzed to the downside. So, you know, I'm not surprised to see coin also doing a similar move, right? So we go on the higher time frame. First of all, I want to take a look at like the Z score. This can show us a pretty good indication of like how overextended we are. Yeah, I mean, right now Z score forming quite a nice divergence. I mean, this weekly is super aggressive, but a bit of a divergence. It's a rough one. It's not completely confirmed yet. You'd probably need another week or so to confirm whether this divergence is in play. But you can see essentially buying into the -2 area on the Z score on the weekly has been a profitable method of trading, right? Buying into here, weekly divergence down here on the Z score, again here, buying into the Z score, again here, buying into the Z score into the -2, and we're sort of having a similar thing here, right? Z score into -2, bit of a divergence forming. So monthly, not too much data to work with on the monthly. 3-day equally, really overextended here, peaked all the way down into that -3 area, but yeah, price is still rolling. So we are really on the fence of like whether Bitcoin can hold. You know, coin will probably follow its course. Okay, looking at sort of like buy signals, I don't really have anything yet. For a buy signal on the yearly VWAP, we're going to be looking at, you know, 100 back towards that long-term accumulation. Like anywhere from 100 down to like sub 100 looks like a really good place to be a buyer on coin. Another sign of like a really strong trend is when you start to see like my buy signals play out, but from there you just continue to form lower lows. Like this is a very a bad sign for bulls essentially, but like a good sign of a trend continuation. Like often you can see here my buy signals, they actually start to like lead to some structure changing, right? You can see that. That's a good sign. That's kind of what you want to see into the lows. But when you have a really aggressive trend and these buy signals just constantly make fresh lower lows, it's not a good sign. It's not exactly something I want to try and catch just yet. And yeah, it kind of brings me back to what I was saying about trying to pair it up with BTC right now. Try to time a bottom with BTC for when you think hype is, when you think coin is going to bottom. But yeah, overall in terms of like the rest of my VWAP systems, I haven't got much. We can see on the weekly VWAP, this is not great. This is not something I want to buy, especially if I start to get buy signals. It brings me back to what I was just saying about the yearly and the quarterly VWAP and the monthly. It's not a good sign. This is not something I would really like to bid. So I'd be a little bit cautious on coin, because if we do start to lose this 145 level, then we're going to go towards 100. And I do believe if you get 100, this is going to be a fantastic place to be an accumulator of coin, anywhere from 100 down to sort of 75. And until BTC bottoms, that looks like the best scenario. But overall, I wouldn't worry too much about the stock being sold. It happens. CEO sells stock, dev sells stock. It's not exactly like he's selling, you know, 50% worth of the value. It's come down to, like, you know, 5%, you know, 500 mil to 1 mil, which obviously is a lot of money, but for these guys, really, it is nothing. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up for coins. Trying for a blank episode. If you do have any requests for next week's episode, please let me know in the comments below and I can do that. Links to join the Discord, where I'm posting daily trades, streams and updates, can be seen at the top of the description. Catch you guys next week for my market update. See you then. Bye bye.